And here's an easier way. I'm going to show you an easier way to do this than just do it by HPLC. I think it's easier. So here's an example that we had a stability sample of a formulated tablet, 6 months at 4075. We had a potency of 90% with an increase in impurities that we detected of only 2.8%, which is a 72% relative mass balance deficit. That means we only detected 28% of what we should have detected, which in the inverse of that is 72%. Some people are following that, but the idea is you got to think about what you did detect from what you should have detected. Another way to do that UV cuvette is to just analyze the sample without a column at all. Take the column out, put it in, and it comes through in a bolus. Just do it isocratically and pick the highest organic strength. It'll come through as a bolus, as one peak. Integrate that peak area. Now you know the total peak area, what it should be. And you can look at that at any wavelength if you're using a photodiode array. Then put the column in line and use that same high organic strength. It'll still come through as a bolus. Maybe a little later, but you integrate the total peak coming out, and now you compare that total peak to the peak that was not with a column, and you can see, oh, it's the same or it's less. And that'll tell you. And you can, if you're on a photodiode array, you can look at any wavelength and kind of say, hey, maybe help that guide your wavelength choice. So here's the results we had. Do I want to go through this or not? Okay, I'm going to show you the answer without going through the calculation. What we found out was that it wasn't getting lost on the column. It was actually just not being integrated. What we had was if you look at the chromatogram of a partially degraded sample, here's the 4075 for 6 months, and here's our unstressed sample. If you look at the blank, where the blank was, and then if you started to drop the integration line down to where the blank was, you had good mass balance. And what we discovered was we used size exclusion chromatography to kind of push all this stuff together. And then we analyzed it again, and you could see there's a whole bunch of impurities in here that are just not, they're just resolving as sort of a hump. But if you get rid of the parent compound and inject a little more, you can get resolution and see a whole bunch of impurities. We actually figured out what the impurities pathways were to get there. So that was an interesting, but it illustrates this idea of using it with and without a column, which is a nice trick to get at, especially when you use a PDA.